This is part one of a two-part episode that will occur in two different videos. Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at about a half a dozen Baldfaced Hornet nests. These are Dolichovespula Maculata nests that were obtained in the wild at the end of the season in the first 2 weeks of November 2022. So we're going to do a forensic analysis on these nests. We're going to take them apart, dissect them, show you what's inside. We're going to analyze the size of the comb structures inside. We're going to take a look at the paper on each nest and the differences between them. We're going to take a look inside the cells of the remaining combs. We're going to see what specimens are inside for live wasps, deceased wasps, and other organisms and insects that also end up in these nests. Every nest is unique and different and full of some type of life, even after the Baldfaced Hornets have left it for the season. Going deep inside these nests always gives you a unique perspective from the eyes of a Baldfaced Hornet looking out their front door at the world. So we'll begin today by showing you some of the natural settings in which these nests were found. They were all located at a height of about 30 feet, give or take. We had to use a 26-foot pole pruner to pull them down, often also needing a step ladder or standing in the bed of a truck to reach them. They were quite high, and for that reason we know that they were not treated by anyone. They were not poisoned, so we're going to be able to see a forensic analysis of nests that had lived to full maturity or had otherwise met their demise early through natural means. Baldfaced hornets will build nests either high in trees, anywhere from 20 to 60 feet is common, but they will also nest in lower bushes toward the ground or in shorter trees. It's unfortunately all too common for the ones that are closer to the ground to be immediately poisoned by people who are simply ignorant about the beneficial nature of the Baldfaced hornet and why they're so important to our ecosystem, and they're native to this area and they should be allowed to live unless they are directly threatening people. So as we pulled them down from trees, we put them in the back of a truck bed in bins, and we transported them back to our field lab where we were able to dissect them one at a time. November 9th, 2022. Today we're going to look at some of the Baldfaced hornet nests that were pulled down from trees this past week. It's November 9th, so at this time of year, most of these nests are already dead for the season. So we're going to do a forensic analysis on some of them. You can see the size of these. This one's medium size. Not too huge. We'll measure them out in a minute. And there's a fairly large one here, and there's a fairly small one. Each found in the same neighborhood, basically, in the same town. November 15th, 2022. Today we're looking at 3 Dolichovespula Maculata nests. 11 by 10, 11 inches by 10 inches, give or take. This nest is about 12 inches by 11 inches, and this one about 9 by 9. All of them are hatched out for the season, so we'll do a forensic analysis on these as well as a couple others we have, and we'll analyze all of those in a video for you. Very nice looking nests. Grays and browns, beautiful paper. Some greens in this one, very pretty. All right, for starters, let's take a look at this big one. This nest was fairly large. To measure it, it's about 12, 13 inches long, probably closer to 12. width on this is maybe 10 inches, maybe 9. So maybe 9 by 12 inches. So it was hanging from a tree like this. The hole that they use to come in and out is right here. One of the later combs fell out of it when it crashed to the ground. So let's take a look what's in here. It's a multi-comb nest. It's very well developed, very mature nest. When it was up in the tree, it was still in pretty solid shape. It had not yet been destroyed by the weather or animals, as far as we could tell, but in the process of getting it out of the tree, it was damaged. Now, let's take a look first of all at how it looks when the paper is removed. This is a beautiful paper, by the way. Take a look at the colors in this. Just absolutely beautiful. It's got lots of nice shades of brown and tan and gray. Very beautiful colors. And the leaves are built right into the nest, as the nest is built right over the twig that it was supported from. Look at the swirling browns and grays. Just beautiful. So we're going to try to preserve as much of this paper as we can. As you can see, like all wasp nests, the paper is in sheets, in layers, and it's layer after layer after layer protecting the inner comb, which is where the brood or the larva, the baby wasps, are born and raised into adults. A lot of interesting patterns right in here. They seem to have put a paper wall up between the combs to keep it supported. It's a multi-comb nest, like most of them are when they get to full maturity. And as you remove the paper, you can see it better, the structure of it. So this comb was made first. It hung upside down, hung like this in the tree. And this base comb is the first one made. Then they'll build on secondary combs. And my understanding is the workers, the first workers, are born in the base comb. Then reproductive workers are born in later combs, which often look larger by size comparison. So if you see the smaller ones there in the first comb, and compare them to the later combs sometimes look larger because those are where queens and males are born, and those are larger than female workers. top is quite hard and tough because it has to hold up the whole nest. The top is the structure that is welded to the twigs that hold the whole nest up. So it's quite strong up there. And in between, the layers of paper, you see the structures in there that actually hold it together. And those structures are the pedicels, or the stalks that hold each layer together. So you've got the top of the nest, and you've got some pedicels holding the first comb section together. Then you have more pedicels holding the next set of combs together. You can see how the structure is laid out inside. It's very strong. Holds this thing together super strong. Very, very tough material in there. It's wood-like because it's made from wood. And all of this is wood fiber that was mixed with the saliva from the wasps. Their enzymes in the saliva form a paste with the wood fiber that make this material very strong and pliable, like paper mache. If you've ever touched paper mache after it dries, it's very hard and it will last for a long time, hundreds of years. And the same is true of this material. So if you set this inside, it would not disintegrate. It would sit there perfectly strong and solid for pretty much ever, until you actually physically damage it. As you remove all of the material at the top of the nest that holds it to the twig structures, you'll find when you get down to the actual comb, you have the strong, tough, you can hear that, it feels like very hard pressed cardboard, tough. So underneath this layer of very pockety, nooks and cranny paper, you have a very strong base, the back of the first comb. It appears this was a very productive and very successful nest. I don't see a lot of dead ones in here, which means the great majority of these hatched out and did fine. They got out and they went on to mate and do what they're supposed to do this time of year. And that's encouraging because they are a very beneficial species here in North America. Baldfaced Hornets, Dolichovespula Maculata. You want to make sure to let this type of wasp survive. Don't spray it, don't treat it, don't remove it from the nature environment you find it in unless you absolutely have to. If it's, for example, on a structure or if it's in a location near where people can get stung easily, then sometimes they have to go. And at least at that point you can relocate them instead of killing them. So we highly recommend you do that. Number one, leave them where they are if you can. And number two, if they have to go, at least relocate them rather than destroy them, because these are very beneficial native species wasp in North America. What they do is they help control other insect populations. They will feed other insects to their larvae, and thereby they are biological control agents that are very beneficial for our local ecosystems. You should never poison these. If you do have to remove them, do a green removal, which means no toxics are used. Use the vacuum extraction technique or just a relocation, whatever you can manage to do, or call in somebody who can handle that for you. At Green Wasp Removal, we only do green removals. There are never toxics used in our workflow at any point. They simply aren't necessary. We don't use them because you don't need them. That's the bottom line. So here is most of the paper removed from this nest. And it's a nice, strong 3-layer nest. And in fact, I'm going to show you the 4th layer that we found on this same nest, that was being built onto it, but it broke off as we removed this nest from the tree. So it actually was a 4-layer nest, which is pretty good size. Now what we're going to do is look at the very last layer, the last comb that was built, which is this little one that fell off. The reason you see most of the pupating wasps that had not had a chance to get out, the reason they're mostly on this small comb is because this was the last one built. So these are the most recent wasps born to this nest. And so what we'll do is we'll take a look inside these pupating cells and see if there's anything left in there that resembles a pupating wasp. Sometimes they've disintegrated, sometimes they've been eaten by parasites by now. Other times they're still in there and easy to see. So let's take a look and see. Yep, this one actually is pretty easy to see. You can see this wasp had developed almost all the way through pupation. As a larva, it actually makes its own silk cap. The larva spins that silk cap when it goes into pupation, and it stays in there until it becomes an adult wasp and chews its way out at the end of pupation. Oftentimes at the end of the season like this, in November, for example, when you find these in trees or elsewhere, you'll notice that there's a few pupating cells that don't survive. They may have been killed off by disease or parasites or cold weather. It's hard to tell, but we'll take a look at this one if they can get them out. So you see this one was just about ready to come out. Oh, look at that. It's still alive. This poor guy is still struggling to survive. It's still moving, even though it's basically so dehydrated that it will not survive. But unfortunately, the nest died out before it had a chance to pupate. So this one, as you can tell by the coloring of it, it was not surviving. It should have been able to get out of there by now, but it couldn't or didn't for some reason. And so this one, unfortunately, is not going to live. So we'll set that aside as a sample and a specimen to keep. Let's see what's going on in the other cell. This one had a larva in it, but clearly that larva had either been eaten by parasites or just died somewhere along the line. There's beetles coming out of this thing, so it's possible it was infested by other types of bugs. Let's take a look at the beetle that just climbed out of there. Here we have a slow motion replay of when we opened this cell. You'll notice that as the cell was being opened, the tongs caught the back end of the abdomen of an unidentified parasitic insect that was inside the cell, eating the pupating larva of a bald-faced hornet. The tongs had inadvertently grabbed the abdomen of this insect and dropped it head first into the cell next door. From there you see that unidentified insect crawling its way back out of that cell and leaping out of the way trying to escape, which it ultimately did because we couldn't find it afterward, which is too bad because we would have loved to analyze that closer and get a better ability to identify it through research. Based on the way it looks, its facial markings and super long antenna, it looks to be almost like a parasitoid wasp, but it has an unusually large abdomen for that. So we're just not sure if it's some type of parasitoid wasp that feeds on other wasps and other insects, or if it's some type of other insect that infested that nest. We just don't know. Don't be fooled by the black and white facial markings on this unidentified insect. It is not a bald-faced hornet. The body coloration is much different. So what occurred here was we have an unknown species of parasitic insect feasting on the larva inside a capped-off cell. So that tells us the pupating larva was alive. It capped off its cell. It went through that process, but somewhere in there, a parasitic insect got inside the cell and began to eat the pupating larva. And we're not sure what that insect was, so if anybody knows, please leave that information in the comment section and we'll do some research on that. So on the rest of this nest, we don't see a lot of the failed pupation cells. There was only a couple on that small comb, and maybe one here on the third comb down. We'll take a look at that one. See how far along this one got before it failed in pupation. Yep, that one didn't make it very far into pupation at all. Let's take a look at another one, if we can find it. Here's one that's sealed. Nothing inside it. Here's one that's partially open. Yeah, this one's just basically disintegrating. Overall, this is one of the more successful nests that we've seen on the end of season nests that we've pulled down from trees and from clients' home yards and things. It appears that just about every wasp hatched out of here okay, with the exception of just the few that we've shown you. Here's another that didn't make it out of pupation for some reason. And again, the reasons that they fail in pupation are varied. It depends on what's happening. Sometimes there's virus, sometimes there's parasites, sometimes you may have cold weather that wipes out a lot of the pupating nest that was just late pupations that came toward the end of the season. But the structure looks great. I mean, it was a very successful multi-layer nest, so overall, good for them. They did okay, this particular colony of bald-faced hornets. So we'll save this one as a specimen nest, and we'll try to reattach this one with some wood glue to where it was when we found it. Have to figure that out. Somewhere in this environment, right about there. So if you were to look at it whole, it would look like this. 4 layers hanging upside down inside the paper envelope. So we'll set aside the comb for now and we'll take a look at the paper, because this is absolutely gorgeous paper. Really, really beautiful browns and tans in there. So we're going to preserve this paper. Just beautiful. Try to see what's inside the layers of the paper. Many times within these layers, as you've seen in other videos we do, you'll find wasps, live wasps, dead wasps, overwintering wasps. overwintering queens, that kind of thing can be in here. Other times there's just spiders or other insects that are borrowing the nest because the wasps are done with it for the season. So we look inside these very carefully just to see what we can find. Well, hello. Here we have a little bee that came by to look at this nest. All right, let's take a look and see what's in here. Boy, I love the look of those circular patterns inside these nests. Just interesting. Now here we have what looks like waste, maybe some type of waste, but it's unclear what that was. Maybe a larva or something. But it's gone now. This is what it looks like from the wasp's point of view when they're coming out of the hole in the nest. This is the entry hole and the exit hole. If you were a wasp climbing down through your nest, here's how it would look outside. You'd see us down here like that when you peered out of your front door. Interesting point of view you don't necessarily see very often. But we're down here, so when it's up in the tree, a wasp would see this view of the world. That's it for part 1 of our nest dissection video. The rest of these nests will be dissected in part 2, so we hope you'll join us for that. Thanks for being here, and have a good one.